Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our weekly series of Shirim on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom, commentary to the Ijarabba. And we're continuing where we left off last week in describing the split nature in which everything emerges into reality. We're darshaning the word lemigzar milan dikshoit, lemigzar, to cut away, to speak out by way of cutting away one particular idea from all other possibilities of idea. And in this cutting away and this hyper specificity of which words and which forms of expression are going to take shape, the Ramchal introduces us to a fundamental reality that the reason everything emerges in a split way in this world, in one way or the other, is because everything that's taking shape in this world is rooted in the relationship between Zer Anpin and Malchus. The entire process of the Derech of Ahava, the willingness to descend away from the radical unity of Chachma and to enter into the treacherous territory of Bina and Zer Anpin, where we're now going to see the shifts and the gradations and the separations and the possible connections that come about after separations. But in the end of the day, this entire Hanhaga of the Eitz HaChaim, of Zer Anpin itself, is a descent into the territory of shifts and changes. As long as we operate in the unicity of Chachma, where everything is unified in its root, so that a person doesn't have to be too concerned about separation. It's only when a person decides to go down the path of Derech Ahava, to trust in the love and the connection that enables a person to descend down into the territory where it appears that that love might be disconnected for a moment, but the person maintains the confidence of connection, which is what enables them to go into separation. Once we go through that process of becoming the Eitz HaChaim, so we're already opening ourselves up to the mixed bag nature of existence. Now, we said the descent away from Chachma into the territory of Bina and Zer Anpin, which is the Derech of Ahava, which is where the person themselves becomes the yichud between opposition and reality, where we occupy the middle period, where we are the ones who are bringing about the revelation. All of that is not simply to descend down into a territory of separation, God forbid, or to enter into a place of concealment for concealment's sake. Ela adraba ipcha mistabra, we descend down into the hanhaga of the derech of ahava. We descend down from chachma into bina and zer anpin, because it's specifically by way of that avodah lishma, of that avodah of bechira, of that ibor, yanika, and moichin, of the parts of zer anpin, and all of the shifts and the changes and the openings and the closings that take shape within each and every person's life, and the gradations of katnus and gadlus and katnusheni and gadlusheni, and the recognition of chisaron in the face of a higher level of unity. All of these symptoms, so to speak, and the details of what it means to operate in accordance with the parts of Zer Anpin, which draws its moichin down from Bina itself, is to enter into concealment for the sake of revealing a deeper level of unity than we originally had. The original unity that we had was the Chachma. Chachma operates in the plain status quo of nothingness, bittul b'metzius, no concealment, no separation, and it's an immediate hashpa'ah from Chachma down to Malchus, where everything is revealed. But what's missing in that place is the secret of developing the secret of unity from within concealment itself. That demands love, that demands an ahava, that demands an anan b'chavivusa talya milsa, a confidence of connection that enables the person to descend down into the territories of disconnection with the deep sense and confidence that there's going to be a revelation of unity that comes out from this as well. And so we're operating now in the process of leaving Chachma to descend down into Bina, which is then going to be Miskala in the parts of Zer Anpin, which is the Derech of Ahava. And then we go down to Malchus, and Malchus then has the ability to go all the way back up to Chachma. But now it's not just going back to the original Chachma, it's going back into the inner interiority of Chachma, which is the interiority of Keser. As the Ramchal explained earlier, that Ha'adam Ha'etz HaSadeh, that the person is the tree, the Eitz HaChaim. What happens when a person descends down to become the Hanhaga of Zer Anpin itself, where I'm going to be the place of the machlokes and the yichud of the machlokes, what happens is that a person is encountering their tselem. The tselem demus tavniso, is the secret that the Ben Adam is going to be medame himself to the zunda atzilus, that we're a merkava for Zer Anpin and Malchus. Nishmas Yisrael is mushrosh in Zer Anpin and Malchus, meaning to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created a reality in which it appears that the yichudim and the zivugim and the ibor, unik, and moichin of Za and Nuk, which is the place where the hischad shas hamoichin are going to come from, it's almost as if it's dependent upon the experience of Klal Yisrael itself. In truth, we understand that that's just the trick that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to live with, but nevertheless, it's specifically in this place where it appears that the avodah is dependent upon us. And when we bring all of that avodah that is dependent on us back into Chachma, we reveal the secret of Ani v'ayin b'vasachas. Chachma, before the descent into Bina and Zer Anpin and the avodah of the individual, was ayin bilvad. It was bittul b'mitzias. It was nothingness, and there was no room for self. There was no room for effort. There was no room for lishma or lo lishma, or clarification of my authenticity or being stuck in my inauthenticity. There was simple unity. The descent down into Bina enables the emergence of that sense of ego, the sense of the ani, where the self becomes the vehicle through which the lights of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are going to be maskala in the world. But it's not simply so that the self can come into focus, but rather the self then goes down to Malchus and it goes all the way back up to Chachma. But now it schleps the ani back into Chachma, and through Chachma back to a higher place of Keser, which has ani v'ayin b'vasachas, self and nothingness at once. Pnimius Chachma, Pnimius Atik, that when you go all the way down to Malchus and then back up into Chachma, which can only take place by way of the descent into the territory that appears to be separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we draw it back into Chachma and we go all the way up to a place that wasn't even revealed yet in the secret of Atika Stima'a. And that's what the Ramchal says, that the person is the Tselem, a person is the Tzadi. So what's the ayin of the eights? So we're the Tzadi of the eights. We're the place in which the encounter of above and below is going to take place. But the ayin is the secret of Atik Yoimin, which is the entire purpose of the descent down into constriction and the process of Zer Anpin, because the only purpose is to go down into Zer Anpin so that I could reveal the higher lights of Atik Yoimin, which could not be revealed had I not descended down into Bina. One of the consequences of descending down into Bina is that it's now the territory of Achas Diber Aleikim, Shtayim Zu Shamati. Everything stands at the ready to be revealed. Everything operates in one place of unified differentiation and differentiated unity. In the realm of Bina, in the womb of Bina, in the Eim Habanim Smecha, there's a proliferation of details that are prior to the explication of details, so that it's the detail orientation that continues to exist in its unified whole. That we know that Bina is a place of Rachamim Rabim, it's a Shem Havaya, but nevertheless, it has the susceptibility to the emergence of dinim themselves, dinim misabrim minei, and that's why the nekudos of the Shem Havaya, of the Shem of Bina, are going to be the nekudos of Elokim, because nekudos and the visualization is how a word gets expressed externally. When Bina expresses herself externally, it appears as two, it appears as a split thing, yet nevertheless, its rootedness is always going to be back in that place of the unity in the womb of Bina. So now, when we're talking about Lemigzer Milan Dikshait, it's now time for things to emerge from the womb of Bina. We now operate in a world where there can be truth or non-truth. There could be separation and there can be connection. And this is what the Ramchal describes as once the Partzufim of Zer Anpin and Malchus come into Metzias, they're achor ba'achor. They're in a back-to-back dependent infantile type of relationship in order to protect themselves from the susceptibility of a perspective of separation, God forbid, or chitzonius orientation, which takes place when a person finds themselves operating in the processes of Zer Anpin and Nukva. In the realm of Chachma and Bina, then we don't have to worry so much about the chitzonium, because the chitzonium don't have the ability to find themselves there. Ulterior motives don't have much hope when they're faced with the illumination of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light on the level of Chachma. But when we descend down into the concealment of the territories of Zer Anpin and Nukva, so there we have to be careful, because the Achorayim, those places of immature kind of misunderstandings of our spirituality, so they become more dangerous there, and therefore there's a protective device set up, which is the ach ba'ach relationship, that Adam and Chava, or Anpin and Nukva, are merged and mended together back to back, so that their faces are pointed in different directions, the face of man and the face of woman, like a Janus head figure, so to speak, that are pointed in different directions. And in that place, there's a machlokas between the Kav Yamin and the Kav Smol. There's a machlokas between Chachma and Din. There's a machlokas between Zer Anpin and Malchus. And it appears that they both represent a fundamental separation. But it's only when Ima, in the time of Rosh Hashanah, awakens this process of the Nesira, which is the difficult surgical removal and destruction of that immature and infantile dependent type of relationship, which was back to back. And it's the opening of the possibility of mature and independent type of relationship, which is referred to as panim el panim, which is going to reveal to us that in truth, all of the opposition and the separation between the two tzadim, the right and the left, Zer Anpin and Malchus, Kav Yamin and Kav Small, which emerged from within Bina to appear as if they're truly separate things. In truth, the goal is to separate from the dependency and come to a place of Panim el Panim, which reveals the possibility of Zivug and Yichud and the revelation of something new, which is the entire purpose of all things. The purpose here is to bring down something new. The Migzar Milan Dikshait, true Chidushim. That's what Rashbi and his Chavraya wanted to do. And the only way that we could bring about something new is to allow for there to be a process and a shifting and an allowance for differentiation to take place within a system that is fundamentally rooted in unity. Everything is unified up until Bina. At the point of Bina, the radical secret of what happens at Bina is that it is the emergence or the emergence of the possibility of multiplicity and separation from within a system that is fundamentally built upon unity. When there's only unity, there's no room for chiddush. Chiddush and novelty demands change, and change demands differentiation, and differentiation enables relationship. Kol zman that everything is fundamentally unified, yes, there's not going to be anything that changes, but there's also not going to be anything new. Chiddush and novelty and creation of something new and the revelation of something new, by definition, demands the descent away from the self-sameness of unity and an entrance into the territory of splitness, where a person can have the havamina of that there's splitness, and then there's two separate things which are encountering one another, and it's specifically from there that the chiddush is going to come from. And that's the secret of what we're about to look at. The reason that it's lemigzar milan dikshoit is because things come out in either a good din or a bad din. That's the secret of the Nasira. And now Ramchal is going to describe how this operates in a positive way as well. V'hinei, and we're on Daf Tzadi Vav. V'hinei, Kemoshahu be'inyan hadin, just as it is with regards to judgments that come down into the world in terms of the hanhaga and the particular form of governance that is going to emerge from within Bina itself, either going to apply itself to the right or to the left. Kahu be'inyan ha'oros, so too with regards to the revelation of lights in this world, with the revelation of spiritual delight. Because everything emerges in the same way. It emerges as a split thing from within Bina to the degree that it appears that it could go to the right or to the left, chesed or din. Ubaha'ir ha'ara, kvar amarti yesh lo kama anfei hispashtus, ashiech gezeras hadavar. Any time that a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to reveal a new illumination, a new light in this world, so all light by definition is unified with all possible expressions. And so all of the possibilities of how this light can be expressed exist within that light prior to its expression. It's not clear what the valence, what the particularized definition of this emergent light is going to be until we have the Gezeras Hadavar. Lemigzar milan dikshoit, this gezerah that is applied both to din and chesed as they emerge from the womb of Bina, is to define each and every thing in its particular thingness and its particularity, so that it can emerge from a place of singularity but express itself in a perspective of differentiation. That's what the gezeras hadavar is. It chooses which way this expression is going to emerge. Is it going to express itself in chesed, or is it going to express itself in din? And this is the inyan of elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim, that elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim, elu ve'elu, the right and the left, Zar'anpin and Malchus, the way that things are going to emerge in this world, all of them are rooted in Elokim Chaim. Elokim Chaim is the secret of the womb of Bina. In the place of Bina, it's elu ve'elu, as Rav Menachem Mendel Shklov points out, that Yichud Trei Hafachim is fundamentally within Bina itself, where differentiation is shown to be unified. But the secret of Bina is also that it splits up into elu ve'elu as well. Elu ve'elu is the possibility of these and those. Bina is the recognition that these and those are both emergent from the singular place of the moichin of Bina, but nevertheless, we can then extrapolate that, the moichin of Bina, where everything is unified, is expressing itself in these and those. And a person has to choose what the psak din is going to be. The secret of Bina is that they're both true, yet nevertheless, when Bina expresses itself lamata, it's only going to express itself in one way or the other. Ki kol mine haispashtius because as the Ramchal is saying, in any expression of light that is emergent from above, all possibilities are present within that light. All possible expressions are found within the emergent expression. But they're going to be expressed in accordance with the particular strength which is expressing itself most intensely. When one shoresh is expressing itself more intensely, that's how that gilui is going to take shape. And when another shoresh is expressing itself more intensely, that's how that gilui is going to take place. If it's a Beis Hillel expression, it's going to express itself by way of chesed. If it's a Beis Shammai expression, it's going to express itself by way of gevura, v'chule. The gam kol zeh kvar nispar b'makomos acherim hetiv. We've already explained the secret of elu ve'elu divrei leikim chayim, that when things emerge from Bina, they're going to now emerge from a singular source into a split possibility. And the goal of those split possibilities is to realize the secret that they're both continuously unified in their source, which is the secret of Elu ve'elu divrei leikim chayim. Ulefi hashorashim nikvayim piskei dinim v'hilchos ela. And when it comes to what dictates the definition in which the ha'ara that is emergent from Bina is going to take place, it's going to be set up in accordance with the tzaddik that is bringing it down. And that's going to be the secret of Piskei Dinim and the halachos that emerge from these particular machloksim. When there's a machlokes of Elu ve'elu divrei leikim chayim, the hagdaras hadavar is not which is more true, but rather it's going to be in accordance with the derech of the psak din and the halachos in accordance with the vessel that's receiving that light. Lahayir lekol tzad. To determine which side it's going to illuminate. Ki sof hakol hu hanitzchias. In truth, in the end of the day, all of the options are true. Everything exists by way of potential in the womb of Bina. It's not that one is true and one is not true. Everything is there. And in the realm of Nitzchias, which is Olam Haba, which is the secret of Bina, all of the riboy opinions, all of the differentiated opinions continue to remain true in a unified type of way. The only difference is that when Bina has to be Poisek Hadin, which is to create the Chaticha or to make that cut, Lamigzer Milan Dikshoit, that's the beginning of the Nasira. And when there's the Nasira, that's where it's going to have to either be Zer Anpin or Malchus. But the entire process of the Nasira is to bring about the real zivug and the yichud of Shmini Atzeres, which is to reveal that both of these separate opinions really were in truth rooted as one. In the realm of Bina, everything is nitzchi, and in that place, shetikune kol hatzadikim me'irim tamid ve'ein kan makom birzeh. In the realm of Bina, all of the tikkunim of the tzadikim, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, they're both unified together to reveal the Rosh Tevos of Baruch Hu uBaruch Shemo. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both reveal the unity. But down here in the realm of Psak Din, the secret of Psak and Chatach and the fact that we're being migzar milan dikshoit, Rabbi Shimon is being megala that the tikkun here is to bring down particularized forms of expression that are being cut away from the unified whole, yet nevertheless not denying the unicity of the whole, but still the secret of Psak Din, of determining which way the ha'ara is going to take place, of making a decision. This is, in the end of the day, how the ha'ara is going to be mispashet. Each and every ha'ara, in spite of the fact that it is emergence from a place of radical unity, it needs to express itself in a particularized way, and that's the secret of cutting it away. Ubekoach nesiras ima nechtachim hadavarim lefi shoresh bal hahalacha v'nishar kavua kach v'nichtav b'soid hazivug. The secret of the Nasira that takes shape when Bina begins to cut away from the immature bond that Zer Anpin and Malchus have, which is Achor ba'achor, which implies that Zah and Nuk are facing in separate directions, that there's a deep machlokas between the two of them. The secret of the Nasira is what enables there to be a yichud of the Kav HaMsai and the middle principle, which is the unifying path, which shows that yes, everybody is right, everything is true, but in accordance with the particular Bal Halacha and the way that it's being grasped and drawn down into Metzias is the way it's going to be written in Metzias itself, and that's the secret of the Zivug. And this is how we begin to have his Chadshus. This is the way that we begin to be able to determine a particular form and expression of newness from within the endlessness of the self-same. This is the radical secret of his Chadshus. Ubehis Chadshe, ubehis chadesh hahakdamos bekoach hasaga nikra gezeres devarim. And what's taking place here with the Chavraya of Rashbi, even though they're not in the process of being poisek din, the Ramchal is saying that this is really what's happening anytime that there's a machlokas in poiskim, that they're each trying to determine from within the womb of Bina, from within Eilu ve'elu divrei leikim chayim, how to paskin the halacha. And I heard the Rebbe say last night by Shalashudis that really the entirety of Shas, the entirety of Poskim, the entirety of the Zohar, the entirety of Kabbalah and Chasidus, they're all Yichudim. But over here, we're seeing that for the Ramchal in the process of Psak Din, and as we know from Rav Chaim Vital, that when the Arizal would learn halacha, that he would exhaust himself to a point of complete exhaustion because he was clarifying concealment in order to come upon the kernel of truth. Hariul Hashem kol haaretz. Psak halacha is ultimately going to be the most fundamental secret in terms of how we determine the real expression of infinitude in this world in a minimized way. But the Ramchal is showing us that what Rashbi and his Chaverav are doing is exactly what the Balei HaPoiskim are doing. And that's what we're trying to do here. The Chavraya gathered together to renew all of the introductions that they had already known about Pnimiyas HaTorah, that had gotten the world to the place of Koyel Chad Samcha, but now it was time for something new. It was Eis Lasos Lashem Hitru Sorasecha, and it came time to be Meschadesh New Hakdamos through the power of Hasaga. Nikra Gezerus Devarim. This is referred to as the Gezerah of the Devarim. When the Chavrai of Rashbi came to be Machadesh Devarim, Kiyesh Milin da Oraisa, Umilin da Chachmasa. There are words of Torah and there are words of wisdom. Kimuvur laha Arizal. The Arizal had words of wisdom. The Arizal also had words of Torah. The words of Torah, how we understand the Torah based on all of the Hakdamos that we already have. But there's also Milin de Chachmasa, which are Hakdamos Meskalus Mechadash. They're new introductions that are being revealed. V'chidush hadavarim hu gezeres Milin, ki nechtachem v'nizgzarim lefi asher shahu. So the Ramchal is explaining something fundamental here in terms of what's happening by the Ijra and really what's happening anytime there's hischadshus, what's happening when there's a novelty or a renewal of Torah. And the Ramchal is saying that you see this by Rashbi and you also see this by the Arizal, that there are the preset notions that we have within the way that we understand the Torah. Those are the Milin de Chachmasa, the foundations, the Hakdamos that we have, that we receive generation after generation, all the way back to Moshe Misinai. And those hakdamos, a person cannot be mechadesh those hakdamos until the zman comes to awaken within that individual, within that particular tzaddik, the possibility of being mechadesh chadashim. We know the Chamisha Yechidei Hadoros. We have Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, Nachum Levei Makor Chochma, Rabbi Nachman, and all of the different tzaddikim that operate within the same constellations. So those 5 times were chidushim gemorim, that these were new hakdamos that were being provided, that we now had new insight into how to understand the Torah. The Milin Da'iraisa are always the same. Milin Da'iraisa are the psukim, are the words that Chazal have given us, are the words that Tanakh are built upon, and the Hakdamos are the introductions upon which we're going to have the ability to understand and uncover new latent meaning from within those words. So what's taking place over here is that the Chavraya Kadisha, the Chavraya of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, were awakening themselves to create new hakdamos, new introductions, to reveal new things that had never been revealed before. The Idra Rabbah was a singularly significant event in the history of Mitzius. It was the point in which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai awoke in the world to realize that something has to change. It was an Eis Lasos Lashem Hifru Sarasecha. So over here, it's not only a chidush of Milin Da'iraisa, it's not just new interpretations of the psukim, but rather it's an awakening of new hakdamos, just like what the Arizal did. That's what Rashbi was doing. The Arizal and his Chavraya were just imitating what Rabbi Shimon and his Chavraya were doing, which were revealing new hakdamos that were needed in order to draw down new hasaga. And the way that these hakdamos come down, the way that these new hakdamos are meskala, is the Gezeres Milan, where we're cutting away new revelations. It's the decision in terms of how a light is going to express itself in reality. Based on what we just described over here, that there's 2 forms of hischadshus. The general form of chiddush, which is available to everybody, are the Milin Da'iraisa, the Perush HaPsukim Lefi HaAkadamos Munuchos Kfar, the explanation of the Torah in accordance to the introductions that we already have from before us. But then there's Milin de Chachmasa, which are the renewal of introductions themselves. Heim ha'akadamos meskalos mechadash, they're new foundational levels of understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, which were not revealed prior to their own revelation. And when it comes to the Chiddush HaDevarim, when it comes to the creation of new hakdamos, which the tzaddikim were able to do, Gezeras Milan. It's referred to as the Gezerah of Milan because now it's the time of a Nesira again, that Ima is being menaser between Zer Anpin and Nukva, and there's going to be the determination of how this Ha'ara is going to come down. And in accordance with this, the awakening that in accordance with the tzaddik that's being mashpia, the particular ha'ara, is going to be the expression of that ha'ara. So if it's a Beis Hillel type of expression, so the Beis Hillel is going to take that or that exists within the realm of bina, and he's going to draw it down through his lens, which is going to be expressed by way of chesed. If Beis Shammai is the kli that's going to be receiving that light, then it's going to be different. Then it's going to be expressed by way of gevura. And the machlokas hapoiskim and the machlokas hatanoim are all based on this pegisha between what each and every Tana, what each and every Amora, what each and every Rishon, Achron, and all of the tzaddikim down to each and every one of us in our own chavrusas and our own learning of Torah. There is a hisnotzitzutz of oires, and there's a betisha sa'oires, and there's an encounter between a question and answer to reveal how the light of Bina is descending down into halacha psuka in this world. And so with this notion that it's going to be in accordance with the Manda Amr themselves that are going to inform the particular valence and framing of that Giloi. So Ramchal brings us encounter with a piece of the Zohar from this week's parsha, the Sabbath Mishpatim, the secret of the Sabbath Mishpatim. Based on what I've explained to you already, Tavin Lashon Acher B'Zohar, Shu Tzarech Pirish. We can now understand something else that's brought in the Zohar Kadosh that needs explanation. V'humasha Amar HaSabbath B'Parshas the Mishpatim. After the Sabbath of Newness Saba and his son, they're walking with the Chavraya, and they're being Mishta'asheya on the Torah. So the Saba Kadisha says, Yadana Chavraya Yadana. I know what I've just explained to you with regards to the name Ata. Aleph Taf Hey is different than what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has already taught you. I know that it's different. So Ramchal is asking, what's going on in this Zohar Kadosh? The Saba Kadisha is coming to say what the word Ata means. And he's, after explaining what the word Ata means, he's then going on and he's saying, no, but I know that Rashbi said something else, and that was very good also. V'zeh kasha. It's a kasha, says the Ramchal. What is the Saba admitting to Rashbi? Why is the Saba acknowledging that Rashbi had another opinion about what this name means, and that's good also? It's either true or it's not true. It's either true that that's the meaning of the word, or it's not true that that's the meaning of the word. And if the Saba is saying that the word Ata means one thing, and Rabbi Shimon said it means another thing, so then why is he being Meshabeach Rashbi? Either it means what he says it means, or it means what Rashbi says it means. But what room is there to praise him in his differentiation? Share o emes hadavar o lo. V'chimishum kvodo yanichu davar she'eno. Is it the result of the kavod that the Saba had for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he was going to pretend that something he said wasn't correct? V'kol shekain sharu be'emes mefarsha derech acher. All the more so that the Saba explains the word ata to mean a different way of connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So why is he giving room and this head nod to Rabbi Shimon? But Adrabah, Ipcha Mestabra, this is exactly the point, that the truth of the matter is going to be dependent in accordance with the perspective of the person receiving it and drawing it down. So when the Saba received that light, he drew it down in a particular way, and Atta meant something. But when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai drew down that light, he understood Atta to mean something else, and therefore the Saba is able to be Mishabeach Rabbi Shimon, because the Saba understands that the word Atta, there's one word Atta, but it expresses itself in two ways in accordance with the grasp of the individual, and that's the secret of Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chayim. It's in accordance with the individual and the root soul of that individual and their ability to draw down that light that's going to determine the balance of the light. And therefore we can find that many times there's going to be an explication of particular oros that are different from one another, and in fact they can even be in stark opposition to one another, and both of them can be true, because ultimately they're rooted in different sources of receptivity. One is Beis Shammai, one is Beis Hillel. Achmi sheshorasho shoresh gadol, hine ma sheyikve lefi ha'araso, tiye ha'ara gedoyla v'ikaris ma'od, sholetes al shar ha'aros, v'zeh kolcho sharashbi ha'nigzer lefi shorasho. But nevertheless, in spite of the fact that there is this multiplicity of interpretation, and that's the secret of Chiddush, nevertheless, when we have a tzaddik like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when we have the Yechidei Hadoros, they have the koyach of kviyus hadvarim. It's going to be in accordance with their shoresh that the light is going to descend down, which is why it could be referred to as Doro Shel Rashbi, the generation of Rashbi, the generation of the Arizal, the generation of the Baal Shem Tov, the generation of the Gra. These tzaddikim had such a potency that in spite of the fact that there were different kochos that were being mekabel the light at the same time, because of their hyper-essential nature, and these neshamos of the tzaddikim, so the gezerah that they have is b'derech klal going to be the halacha psuka for the generation. V'nachzer al inyan shir hashirim. And we said earlier the Ramchal brought from the Zohar Chadash on Shir Hashirim, where we saw the lashon of lemigzer milan dikshoit, where he says v'zesod gadol b'emes v'timsa b'Zohar Chadash b'Shir Hashirim harbe pamim apumya de Eliyahu itgazer, that by the mouth of Eliyahu are the matters going to be determined. Zok the Heilig Ramchal v'nachzer al inyan Shir Hashirim. Now we can return back to that notion that we brought up in Shir Hashirim in trying to understand what gezerah is. The gezerah is not simply speech; it's cutting away the particularized form in which that word is going to be expressed, which is determined by the particular soul that's receiving it, and it's going to be that koyach of that particular soul's understanding and grasp, which is going to convey the idea downwards. And Zakter Ramchal, Shagile ha'ores haya nigzar al yidei Eliyahu. When it comes to the lights that were descending down in Shir Hashirim, that Eliyahu Hanavi was going to be the one who was going to determine the valence of those lights. Va'al kain ne'emar apumya de Eliyahu is kazer. This is why in Shir Hashirim it says that it's based on the mouth of Eliyahu Hanavi that the words are going to be determined. V'hine kan hayu tzrichim kol echad mehem lahasig devarim gedolim va'amitim. When it comes to the Ijra Rabbah, every single one of the Chavraya needed to uncover the Gilui that was taking place in accordance with their own Shoresh. As we're going to see as we continue, the way that the Chavraya Kadisha are set up in the Ijra Rabbah is that each and every one of them is going to give their own drasha. Each and every one of them represents a particular nodal point on the parts of Hashalim of Chaburas Rashbi, and therefore in the Ijra Rabbah, when the Talmidim still had the ability to speak because they had not yet grasped the full depth of what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was, like they experience in the Idra Zuta, where only Rabbi Shimon speaks. So over here, each and every one of the Manda Armim are going to bring down the words and the particular tikkunim in accordance with the sharish of their neshama, which is going to be the root of all of the neshamos that are connected to those particular sharashim as well. As we see, v'chein haya kamosha amar behedya Rabbi Chizkiya b'tikun beis shel hadikna mistakel havina v'aru chame nuhure yakire. As we see that each and every one of the chavraya who are going to give a different drasha on the Yud Gimel Tikunei Dikna, on the 13 rectifications of the beard, when it came to Reb Chizkiya, in accordance with his particular shayresh, the lashon of the Zohar is mistakel havina va'aru chamis nuhure yakira. I was looking deeply and I saw a profound and illuminated light. So we see that each of the Tanaim were preparing to draw the light down in accordance with their own shoresh, as rooted in Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Harei shahayu masigim mashalo yadu. They were grasping things that they didn't know already. They were unthought knowns. They were experiencing the emergence of new qualities of their shoresh that were unknown to them. And once they grasped it, that was the ha'ara on the level of bina, and then they understood that they have to bring it down in a particular way, and that was going to be the drasha that they gave. This is why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was saying, Chevra, you're all going to have to be goizer milan dikshot. Each and every person is going to have the confidence and the ability to interpret the word in accordance with the way that they know that their sharish neshama has to understand it, as drawing it down through the koyach of the tzaddik of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but drawing it down through the particular valence of their own neshama and their own role that they play in his kashrus to the tzaddik, and each and every one is going to bring it down in accordance with their own shoresh. This is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is awakening the chevra to, that right now it's not just milan de oraisa, we're not just giving new vortlach, we're not just interpreting the psukim in a new way, but rather it's going to be milan de chachmasa, meaning to say hakdamus meskalus mechadash, new understandings, new openings of grasp that were not available prior to the experience of the Idra itself. And therefore Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says to the Chavraya, the migzar milan dikshoit. Each and every one of us have to align ourselves to the chelek that each and every one of us represent. As we saw, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had to spend 12 months in the cave in order so that he could understand the tziruf of each shevet and understand how to speak the words of Torah in accordance with each and every shevet. So too, when it came to the tikkunim, each and every neshama, each and every shirish neshama has to have its tikkun that it's going to be able to find itself in. And all of the Chavraya are obviously surrounded around the Amud Ha'olam, which is the Butzina Kadisha, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The migzar milan dikshoit. So first and foremost, what Rashbi is reminding them is, as we're entering into this territory of the Derech of Ahava, to be able to bring down our own particular tikkunim, which come about from the Hisayrus of Bina, which is the Eloikim Chayim, which is the Shorish, where everything is unified, but then each and every neshama is poisek din for the neshamas that are connected to it, and that demands that the person first and foremost own the fact that they become the center center point. They become the Hanhaga of Zer Anpin and Malchus, where we become the Chibur of the Kav Yamin and the Kav Smol. And that's the secret of becoming like the Eitz HaChaim. First, the person has to make themselves a Merkava into the Eitz HaChaim, La'asos Merkava L'chol Pratav, which we first and foremost said were the two Ksharim, from Keser, Das, Tiferes, and Yisoid, the Kav Hemsoi, and then the second Kesher was connecting our Moichin, and at that place we identify the fact that, okay, I'm a Bal Mechusar, I'm a Bal Chisaron, and I'm going to go through an Ibur, Yanika, and a Mochen, I'm going to go through real processing here, but nevertheless, in the end of the day, it's for the sake of revealing a deeper level of unity. It's only after each and every one of the Chavrayas stood upon themselves and took upon themselves that role of going down into the Hanhaga of Bina and Zer Anpin that they were going to be able to bring about Chidushim. Because any time that a person wants to attach themselves above and create something new in this world and encounter the secret of novelty, first and foremost, anytime a person wants to bring something new into the world, it has to be based upon the previous introductions that have already been revealed. That the Chiddush, that the Chavraya Kaddish are standing at the ready to reveal, is one that is being drawn upon from all of the previous levels. Meaning to say that everything that led a person to the ability of being in the place of being Zer Anpin and Malchus, which is separated from Bina, that's not starting from nothing. That's built upon all of the processes that took shape beforehand, which was moving from Chachma into Bina into the Eitz HaChaim and becoming the Merkava for the Eitz HaChaim and understanding the particularities so that the opportunity for novelty and the openness of novelty and the freedom of interpretation is built upon the fundamental stability of all of the accepted and resolute foundations and introductions that were built prior to that moment of novelty. Novelty is not something that emerges ex nihilo, something from nothing, but rather it's something from something. There's no novelty that's something from nothing other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Bria in the Olam and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perpetual Hanhaga in the realm of Olam HaAtzilus, as the Alter Rebbe describes so powerfully in Igeres Chaf and Igros Kodesh. Everything else is min ha'asui. All chidushim are chidushim in the sense that they're novel ways of understanding all of the introductions that came from beforehand. And once I move through all of the introductions that came from beforehand, there can be a new emphasis, a new understanding of what they all mean. But it's all built on that which has always already previously been there. A person has to draw down from the levels that are already revealed. And only then a person is able to draw down the new novelty in accordance with the value of their soul. First and foremost, a person has to make themselves into a merkava for the Eitz Chaim, which is the derech of ahava, to prepare myself to descend down into the territory of changes, to no longer be operant in the space of fundamental unity, but rather to allow myself to drip down into the space of concealment, bechol tikunav, in all of the processing of its rectifications, which is the nesira and the ibor, the yanika and the moichin, and all of the preparatory stages prior to a yichud, which is for the sake of a zivug, which is for the sake of a leida chadasha. Shu b'soid haperus hamevushalim kvar. We have to prepare all of the fruits of the tree that are already in their process of ripening, and to enable them to be served. Af lefi ha'asagos asher yitgala az yimshach ha'devarim keseder letaken ha'etz atzma b'chol sidrei tikunei ela ad hamshachas haperus hamevushalim. That the goal of all of these tikkunim is to prepare ourselves to receive that light, but nevertheless, all of the new light that is going to be coming down and revealed is only going to be revealed by way of the order that has already been prepared in the shape of the Eitz Chaim. This is the paradox of Chiddush. We're drawing down something new, but the new cannot come down until we have developed a deep appreciation of the need to perpetually uphold that which we already know, which is the opposite of Chiddush. And from within that stability of something that is not new but old, through that old system of the Eitz Atzmo, B'chol Sidrei Tikunei Ela, that's going to draw down the new light of Chiddush. So the secret of Chiddush is not complete renewal that has nothing to do with that which has been developed already, already, but it's the radical reorientation towards that which has been developed already, and the openness and the confidence to draw down something new from within those hakdamos themselves, which is the Leila Chadasha. Ad hamshachas haperus hamevushalim, to the point that we can have a fruit that is ripened and it can be plucked off the tree, which is the secret of a real chiddush. And as Rabbi Nachman describes in the vision of Torah Pehei and Likutei Moharan Tanyana, the danger of taking from a tree that is not fully prepared yet, the danger of taking a fruit from a tree that does not properly understand the fundamental necessity of relying upon the tree for all of the processes that lead up to the possibility of that fruit being able to be eaten. Without the hakdamos, the fruit thinks it's just a fruit, then that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, where it sees itself as something new, disconnected from the eights. Only when the fruit is fundamentally aware of every stage and every gradational process that was set up before it within the tree itself that enabled this new emergence to come down, only then can the pre actually contain the secret of the yichud itself. And all of this is through the secret of Bina, which expresses herself down through the Ilan itself, as we know that the Nahi of Ima becomes the Chabad of Zer Anpin, that the Moichin of Zah are actually the Raglayim of Ima herself, which is Ein Amad, Ein Adam, Oimer al Devei Torah, Ela Imemis Atzmo Alayam, that the Torah itself is Zer Anpin, but it's only through the secret of the Misa that Ima allows herself to go through, where she conceals herself to express her innermost point into Zer Anpin itself. Hakol Bekoyach Ima HaMispashet Ala Ilan Umachtechet HaDevarim. So what we have is ultimately a clear picture of what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the Chavrayav are trying to do. They're willing to descend down into the need to bring about new rectifications, which are the secret of Hakdamos Chadashos, new ways of looking. There's a new need to reveal new points of the Torah of Mashiach. Everything up until the point of Bina is unified. The secret of bringing down something new is the secret of the Gezerah. The Gezerah is the radical secret that everything is all together in one place, but in accordance with the vessels, in accordance with the need of the time and the place and the soul, is going to be the way that that particular ha'ara, which is infinite in its source and full of all possibilities, is going to be expressed in one particular point. Meaning to say, every gilui of one thing is by definition the opposite of the giloi of every other thing. So anything that I see is built upon the recognition that it's not anything else. So in understanding that every mila and every gezerah that comes down, and every hasaga that comes down, and every psak din that comes down, and every moment of illumination that comes down into this world is in accordance with the particular shoresh of the individual who's receiving it, and the hiskashas that that person has to the tzaddikim who are rooted in that same kav, and it's through that process that we're going to be able to draw it down into a real place. That's lemigzar milan dikshoit, to bring down the word of newness in a real way. But that's not something new, an ex nihilo. It's fundamentally rooted in all of the stages of preparation that led to its setup, to led right before it. And only then can a person appreciate Chiddush. When Chiddush is built upon the radical authenticity of tradition, and from the edge and the lip of tradition emerges the secret of a novelty. That's going to be the secret of the tikkunim. That's what the Chavrai of Rashbi are getting themselves together to do, and that's what the Ramchal is giving us the Eitzah to do, to be mitchazik ourselves with the koyach of ischachos, which is fundamentally based on all of the hakdamos that preceded us, and to move through the hakdamos that preceded us, and then to be machadesh chidushim from within them, and to reveal how they're endlessly growing in orientation to the prate pratius that they have to be applied to in our own lives. Be'ezras Hashem.